where not just women are in danger, but all marginalized people, where being uniquely different right now might truly be considered a crime. It seems as though we had all slipped into a false sense of comfort, that justice would prevail and that good would win in the end. Well, good did not win this election, but good will win in the end. So what today means is that we are far from the end. Today marks the beginning of our story. The revolution starts here. The fight for the right to be free, to be who we are, to be equal. Let's march together through this darkness, and with each step, know that we are not afraid. That we are not alone. That we will not back down. That there is power in our unity, and that no opposing force stands a chance in the face of true solidarity. And to our detractors that insist that this march will never add up to anything,
Boston Red here with Friday Java, a weekly magazine of political theory, polling, and commentary. It is part of the history called people that make up this fascinating journey. We are part of the Obama network. For that, we make no apologies. What we pledge to do is give you the facts on a bridge to history. What body politics is, the most up-to-date theories of political science and psephology. Stay tuned for this incredible ride. Boston Red, peace out.
Friday Java. The Boston Red Network's magazine show, normally done on Friday mornings, and it will be posted sometime on Friday. We'll get it posted. Nonetheless, the date is the 15th of November 2019. As has been in the this week, some activity, a lot of press activity, reminded of Nate Silver's book, The Signal and the Noise. A lot of noise out there in the live impeachment hearings. What stuck with the public is difficult to say. We have one poll here out of Louisiana. Hopefully we'll get it in from JCV or JVC. Anyway, we'll make sure I get that name correctly. There is a race, a runoff race in the state of Louisiana. That'll be, I believe, next Tuesday will be that race. We'll check it in a minute. But we have some important numbers there. And in addition, this week, the former governor of the Commonwealth, Deval Patrick, entered the presidential sweepstakes. He filed papers in New Hampshire and had a YouTube, as has become the custom now. I suppose now politicians are either on Twitter, but for announcements you go to YouTube. Of course, that YouTube video can be shown on Twitter also, announcing that he is in the race. I heard a radio interview, I think it was this morning, with somebody of the Third Way. I can't recall his name right now. We're talking about the number of candidates in the race at this point in time, and the new entrants in there. Bloomberg is in, and now we have Patrick. Patrick had been a two-term governor in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and he is an associate of Barack Obama, been around a long time, a skillful politician, no doubt about that. Originally he was out of Chicago, but educated in Boston at the finest schools, and he was a corporate lawyer before he went into politics and ran for governor, and now he's back doing basically the same things. He's with an investment firm, and that is the type of background that he comes out of. Will he add anything to the race? That'll be very debatable. We'll see how that turns out. Cory Booker, of course, is there. He's the other African male in the race. Of course, Booker hasn't been catching fire, as they say, yet. The Democratic race is an interesting race in itself this time around. The big question is, and this is what the Third Way fellow was talking about, will this be a race that people are looking for an activist type of politician? In other words, the preliminary polling we have Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. Both of those people are advocating a Medicare for all. Period. So in other words, this is much more a progressive ticket. Whereas you have Joe Lunchbox Biden, he's taken the traditional liberal path, to say. And, of course, his event is in the hearings there on Ukraine. It was talking about his dodgy son, Hunter Biden, and his presence, job there with a company, and, of course, later with China. But the information that's coming out of the hearings so far, and the people that have testified, is basically painting the same story that's been around for the last few weeks. But is there anything new that the average voter can catch on to? We at this mic have not seen it as of yet. We'll have tomorrow night Bill Moyers. He was on Democracy Now! And talking about impeachment, basically the same sentiment. But he feels, as I do, that perhaps there is a recording around. Now, if there's a recording around, recordings are always around, as with Nixon in his White House, and of course Bill Moyers was around at that time. He was the press secretary to LBJ. He's out of Texas. The last liberal president, substantial president, and of course it was a different time. LBJ had his war on poverty. We haven't had a war on poverty since LBJ. LBJ signed the Civil Rights Act, the Voting Rights Act, the long list of progressive legislation that LBJ signed. And, of course, at the same time, we had the Vietnam War, which was a continuance of Wilsonian foreign policy. And most people, LBJ himself talked about that and how the policy had been continued since the Great War. LBJ was in the Great War. That was World War II. So in other words, you had people in a certain matrix, we'll say, and they were stuck in that matrix. The same matrix that old Hillary the Monster Clinton pulled out when she sent the forces of doom to murder Colonel Gaddafi, the president, leader of Libya. And the place has been in chaos ever since. And the same thing in the Balkans. I mean, that type of neo-colonialist type of policy usually done with the people of color of the world. And we have the Iraq War, Afghanistan, that extended on to the administration of G.W. Bush. So basically that is the same thing. They're arguing about that. You'll have foreign policy people coming in. I'm not sure as to how much they will get into why this occurred. The whole idea that was, and they have Yulanovich coming in today. She had been the ambassador to Ukraine, but the whole idea there was to do a little bit of what they call state building in the Ukraine. They had a little revolution there. What was it, the Orange Revolution? One of the anyway, whatever color it was. And they overthrew basically their elected president. He had to move on to Moscow to take up there. But that was one of those old Cold War type scenarios where you're in a spear that the Russian Federation, obviously, and the USSR, former USSR, and its attachment and historic attachment to the Ukraine as part of Russia. So in other words, you have this in, and you have a competing interest to try to splinter that part of the world up. and get it into NATO, which is a relic of the the Second World War. It makes no sense at all. But this was what it was all around, the military aid to Ukraine. Ukraine finally received the aid, and it's a little bit sketchy there as to who knew what about the aid, because you were dealing there, and then you had Rudy Giuliani running a private form of Wilsonian democracy there, and then you had the regular stately private people. But the problem with the hearings so far and with the whole caper here is that you don't have, say, a burglary like you had in the Watergate, where people can wrap their hands around. But Nancy Pelosi came out with a statement that basically was bribery. Nancy Pelosi has been around long enough. She knows how to bring it down to the local language or nomenclature of the people, and that's basically where it is. They have such, things as using the Latin phrase there, but that in itself doesn't resonate as much. In other words, you give me something and I give you something, and that is what they were trying to say. But they have to come a long ways from that particular situation as to where the American people actually are. And when we get into the Louisiana numbers, we'll talk a little bit about that, where the public is. It's depending on which poll you look at, either it's 50-50 or close to 50-50, where 50% think that the impeachment should go forward and old DJ should be given the boot, and an equal number or less in Louisiana. It's less than that feel that he should stay. So that's a big issue there. We have the people from the University of Virginia, that's Larry Sabato's shop, in Charlottesville, Virginia. Of course, we always honor have a hire when we give this presentation. We'll go to, in one form or the other, to Little Rock, Arkansas, and the one-day teacher strike in Little Rock, Arkansas. They were, of course, demonstrating in front of the historic Central High School there in Little Rock. That's the high school that the then Governor Farber stood in the door there, and the U.S. Marshals were there, and they were escorting those little African students into the Little Rock High School. Kassenbach was there, and the Marshal Service, etc. So it has a historic situation. Also, the Little Rock school system, and this is why the strike, is under a state administration. We've had that happen before in other cities, that governors have placed the schools under the state administration. Anyway, we'll get to that. Let's get to Larry Sabato, put on our, what was it called in the 50s, cheaters. Anyway, this is from Professor Amowitz. He's a professor at the Emory University in Atlanta, Georgia. He's writing here. He's senior columnist also here. And he's written a book, which we have on the bookshelf here, and we'll get to that later also. So we'll just give the key points here. This is on the 14th. Medicare for All has been a major issue in the Democratic primary, but it also came up a lot in the 2018 cycle of midterm elections. A regressive analysis compares the performance of 2018 Democratic House candidates show that those who supported Medicare for All performed worse than those who did not, either when controlling for other, even when controlling for other factors. Democratic presidential candidates do well to take heed of these results, particularly as the eventual nominee determines what he or she wishes to emphasize in the general election. General elections historically are not like primaries. They tend to be much more focused. Nonetheless, Medicare for All, a warning from 2018, has emerged as a key issue in the 2020 Democratic nomination campaign. Two leading candidates, Senator Sanders from Vermont, Bernie Sanders, and Elizabeth Warren from the Commonwealth, have made Medicare for All a center issue of their campaigns. Warren and Sanders' proposal will abolish private health insurance in the U.S. within a few years over a 4-year period. Now, remember, this is a 4-year period, but again, the way the Congress and legislation works, it may not actually make the floor of the Congress until, say, the second year or the third year. Who knows? Moving all Americans to a government health plan based on the current Medicaid program, but with no co-payments or deductions. This in itself would save millions of dollars, in fact, actually trillions of dollars. Several Democratic candidates, including Biden, who has led in the national polls but has been highly critical of the issue. These candidates, along with a number of healthcare policy experts and pundits, have attacked Sanders and Warren's Medicare for All proposal as prohibitively expensive and politically unrealistic. They have also argued that embracing Medicare for All would alienate many independents and moderate Democrats, risk costing the Democrats the electoral votes of several key swing states. But 2020 is not the first election in which Medicare for All was an important issue. It was also debated extensively in 2018 midterm election. By examining the impact of Medicare for All in the 2018 U.S. House elections, we may gain some insight. Fortunately, we have good information about positions taken by House Democratic candidates on Medicare for All and their responses to surveys conducted by a group advocating for the policy. The National Nurses United, according to results of this survey, 51%, that's 219 out of 429 districts including the survey, Democratic House candidates endorsed a version of Medicare for All, one of which is a fairly close proposal there. So the proposals do vary a little. I'm glad they put this out here. And this is what happened here. State representatives 20 plus, Medicare for All yes, and no percent. Total number of candidates 116. Solid reps 10 to 42% and 58% against Medicare for All, and 62 they have favored representatives 5 to 10 at 29% for the question and 71 against it. Lean representatives 15 in favor and 85 against it. And this is the favored Republicans. So, but let me get this right here as to who these people are. And let's see what lean Republicans. Yeah, anyway, we'll get the lean Democrats. There are 5 of those, evidently. A total of 20 candidates. Sorry about that. 5 legislative districts. 45% were in favor and 55% against it. Favored Democrats, there were 15 of those. 40% were in favor, according to this survey, and 60% were against it. Solid Democrats is a 50-50 district. You see how the numbers move up here. There were 38 of those. The safe Democrat districts were 73% in favor of Medicare for All and 27% not. That was 134. So we get the grand totals here. Medicare for All, 51% yes and 49% no. And that's a total of 429 candidates. So this is the source. I'll have to look at that source. Not surprising, support for Medicare for All was most pervasive among Democrats running in safe districts. And we've already went over that, so we won't go back. But Medicare for All was not in strongly Republican districts, but in districts that lean Republican. Those districts nearly voted for D.J. Trump. The findings suggest that Democratic candidates were less likely to support Medicare for All in marginal Republican districts, no doubt about that. Medicare for All, Democrats won yes, 45%, no, 72%, Republicans 55%, and yes, 28% no. Average Democratic margins, depending on where you were, 0.5% are 3.5 were against Medicare for All. Mean spending in terms of millions of dollars, Medicare for All 4.2 and 4.97. Number of candidates 20 and 40 were against Medicare for all. So this is Table 2 suggests that Democrats in marginal House districts were right to be concerned about the potential impact of Medicare for all. Let's move along here. And the regressive analysis of vote margin for Democratic candidates and open seats in competitive districts there. R equals 0.05 and R squared equals 0.67. Adjusted R squared equals 0.17. And we go into the coefficients and standard coefficients and what beta was. Anyway, we won't get into all that, but we can. We'll figure with pensions or not. In order to further explore the impact of Medicare for all on all the results of these competitive races, we need to conduct a multivariable analysis, controlling for other factors and influencing the outcome. Table 2, the results of multiple regressive analysis of the House resulted in these 60 districts. The dependent variable is the Democratic margin in the House race. The independent variable are the Democratic presidential margins in the district. The dummy variable for the districts with Republican incumbent versus open seat. Won't get much into that, but it's set up in a way in which we'll see it all. It's possible the estimated effect of Medicare for all was a byproduct of other differences between supporters and non-supporters. For example, supporters might be taking might take more liberal positions on a variety of other issues as well as Medicare for all. If this is the case, however, these findings are not encouraging to supporters for Medicare for all. This includes candidates in competitive races who take positions to the left of the median voter. This has been argued time and time again for a very, very long time. And basically, in some of the districts where you had military, ex-CIA types, a little different kind of situation there. Anyway, nonetheless, Professor Hammerwitz is the Alvin Berkeley Professor of Political Science, Emory University, senior columnist here, and the Great Alignment, Race Party Transformation, and the Rise of Donald Trump. We have the book on the bookshelf. Released by the Yale Press. It's an interesting analysis here, but however, as Bernie says, and Liz Warren very, very clear on this, we always need to run political campaign on big ideas. At least you run them on big ideas in the contest. Now, what happens in general election, that's the general election. Things can definitely change when you don't really know which candidate for the party. With the Democrats, it would depend on which candidate runs. But remember one thing an old-timer once told me in an election. Elections are won or lost in terms of, when you talk about electoral votes, you could lose it by 1, 10, or 15 electoral votes. Or you could win it by that, or you could have a wipeout. But if you lose, you lose. That's the bottom line right there, how the campaigns run, how the external conditions are. And a lot of that will depend on other variables, the economy, turnout, who turns out, who doesn't turn out, what the conditions of DJ Trump is at the time. And those are things we really don't have right now. There are other things in Medicare for all. Republicans obviously would make Medicare for all the top issue out there, one of the top issues there. Right now, Joe Biden is the top issue. And attacking Democrats as a socialist, all those things enter into the campaign. It's like what happened to Brother Kerry when he got switvoted. Incidentally, the 50th anniversary of the famous Vietnam march is that today or tomorrow in Washington. It's called the mobilization. A huge march. Was the largest march in the history of the country, at least at that time. The Million Man March dwarfed it. We'll have that on tomorrow, the week that was. Incidentally, we have a broadcast on the Dreamers The Deca people did that on yesterday. It is up there. One of the things that you should look to. And also Numbers Man, that'll be coming this weekend. The last program we had a lot of PSIs there from the market people and how things are actually going. And also we had GDP figures. That's in the last broadcast on Numbers Man. That's part of the Boston Red Network on individual state performances. And also we looked at where the jobs were. And we'll be looking some more at jobs, and we'll get some more information on Medicare for All. We don't really have that out. We'll have a special program on that. Let's just we'll just jump in here with the Washington Post and the lawsuit by Amazon. They challenged the award. That was a $10 billion JEDI program to Microsoft. There's an ongoing war between DJ Trump and Amazon and the Bales, the owner there, etc. Now, this is kind of interesting because this contract was expected to go to Amazon Web Services because they had worked with various people around, but yet it ended up going to Microsoft. Amazon AWS is uniquely experienced, qualified to provide critical technology the military needs, and remains committed to supporting the DoD in its modernization effort. That is obviously from Amazon. We believe it's critical for our country that the government and its elected leaders administrate procurement objectively and in a manner that is free from political influence. Numerous aspects of JEDI's evaluation process contained clear deficiencies, errors, and unmistakable bias. I've been involved in these federal bids before. In fact, in the Air Force project, that was at that time it was the largest procurement contract of its kind, and that ended up. Let me get the precise thing. It's been a long time ago. It's been over roughly 20 years, a little over 20 years ago, late 80s, that we did that particular one. It was a desktop one. Anyway, whatever it was at the time, it was it. And it ended up in a bidding situation there, in a protest, I should say. And at that time, if you submitted federal bids, even though you were not awarded the contract, you did receive some enumeration for preparing the bid in itself, period. So anyway, the JEDI contract was a significant financial disappointment for Microsoft, but it came after the company committed to hiring 25,000 people over 10 years in the Washington area. So they'd already committed there, and they'll have to go find other work. And Amazon is a commercial cloud computing market leader, holds 48% of the market shares, according to Gartner. And let's see. Microsoft is second with 15.5%. IBM is in there also. And we, of course, have been long associated with IBM. Amazon's the only company to hold Defense Department's highest level security certificate called Impact Level 6. Microsoft made strides during a year-long period. The award was a tied-up litigation and finalizing a number of partnerships. Analysts say have narrowed the gap. Microsoft said it made enormous project on level 6, but it's not there yet. Amazon's filed a notice to protest on the CEO with the Federal Court of Claims. The company still needs to file its formal protest. That's equivalent in the civil law of a notice. Period. Doesn't have any bearing till you actually file it. Now, Oracle, which wanted the contract but was eliminated in the early phase, has sued the Department of Defense and Amazon in the U.S. Court of Federal Claims, alleging conflicts of interest in parts of on the part of numerous defense officials who had close relations with Amazon. This has always been that situation here, and now this is some of the contractors, Oracle, Microsoft. The president said that he had received tremendous complaints about the contact from competitors like Microsoft, etc., etc. Anyway, a lot of touch and go here, and the losing out, according to the posts here, wasn't just surprising, it was staggering, no doubt about that, period. And an all-hands meeting, the Amazon service chief, Andy Jassy, suggested to workers that Trump's interference scuttled the bid, and probably no doubt about it. Well, will that go into the next thing up here? Well, it's kind of hard to say here. Continuing on with the Washington Post, DJ Trump is preparing to pardon some more war criminal types that have been tried. Let's see, keep America. Yeah, some observers thought Trump might announce his decision to keep America Great rally. That was last night in Louisiana. Evidently didn't come out there. And the case involves an Army major named Matthew Ghostar, I guess, a former Special Forces type who faced a murder trial in the death of a suspected Taliban bomb-maker. Former Special Forces War Operations Chief Edward Gallagher. He was a Navy SEAL who was recently acquitted of murder, but convicted of posing with a corpse of the Islamic State. And another for Lieutenant here, Clint Lawrence, who was convicted of second-degree murder in 2013 and is serving 19 years sentence for ordering his soldiers to open fire on 3 Afghanis in Afghanistan. Naturally, Golston faces a court-martial that's scheduled for February. He came under an investigation 211 after he applied for a job with the CIA and disclosed during a polygraph that he had killed someone on deployment and buried the body. A bunch of dodgy characters here that evidently he's pardoning, and of course interfering with courts. U.S. Court of Criminal Appeals found in 2017 that the information would have not been permitted in a new trial. Now, well, who knows here? Anyway, Trump tweeted the case of Goldstern on the Review. Goldstern earned the Silver Star for valid, which was later revoked by the Army, and is highly decorated. Well, another dodgy character here, period. He ordered Gallagher to be removed from prison. I guess he's at home following the act. Anyway, that's basically the story here. These characters, the action followed part of another type, Michael Behena, in May of 2008, murdered an Iraqi prisoner suspected of being a member of Al Qaeda. Behena was convicted of premeditated murder and sentenced to 25 years after he stripped a detainee naked, interrogating him without authority, shot him twice, and then he claimed he was acting in self-defense. The detainee made a move for his gun. That's a typical statement made by domestic police officers. And finally here, career White House type to testify. This is a name Mark Sandy would be the first. He's with the Office of Budget to appear there, and I think he appears long-time worker at the White House Office of Management Budget Inspector, but he'll testify on Saturday. Now, not be the first one to testify in the affair after Russell Vaughn and 2 other political appointees decided they would not appear and defy the orders. but he would not like those, as Sandy is a career worker and not one appointed by the president. He worked at the agency off and on for over a decade under pressure under both parties. So he's been around there. If he's subpoenaed, he will appear. That's what his lawyer, Barbara Van Gilter, said. So he's expected to testify. Now, this will be a closed-door deposition here. Typically, witnesses in impeachment inquiries have been served with subpoenas immediately before their deposition is scheduled. Anyway, this will be him, and he will be appearing there. So let's run out to the West Coast, and we'll pick up information. I think we'll do the West Coast now. We'll do Amon Bundy. We'll do him tomorrow on the week that was. We'll also do the Dolly Parton one here. Dolly Parton, of course, this is from the Los Angeles Times. She's been interviewed here. The headline is, and we'll save it till tomorrow, she just refuses to be brought into the political dynamics, seeing that some of her people refuse to get political. She prefers to heal the divide, she says, and bring in the money from both parties. And we'll get a sporting story up here. This is Colin Kaepernick, and he has a private tryout here. Is most likely to sign, with this team. That's what the odds makers say. In case you haven't heard, the NFL is holding a private workout for Colin Kaepernick in Atlanta on Saturday. All 32 teams have been invited to attend, and several have already indicated they plan to send someone to see what the former 49ers can do after 3 seasons being off. Of course, Week 11 does seem kind of late in the season for this kind of thing. All 32 teams could pick up their phones and arrange something like, since Kaepernick's been a free agent since 2017, 2 years. But you never know. Maybe he will impress some team enough that it decides to give him a shot. There are a lot of teams that have no quarterback at all. From betonline.ag, it released the odds, which teams that might pick him. The Bengals are as a favorite. They're 7-2 odds to sign him by the end of the regular season. Bengals have a 0-9 record, and they're giving their rookie quarterback a extended tryout. But if the experiment fails miserably, maybe they'll want to get Kaepernick in a similar opportunity. Cincinnati, the next 2 favorites, are also in the AFC North. The Steelers are 4-1, a little better record there. And the Baltimore Ravens, they are 6-1. Both teams are playing well with their young quarterbacks. But perhaps they think it might be looking for an upgrade at a backup, and that's usually, especially teams that plan to go into the playoff part and possibly try to get to a Super Bowl. They think about this. Some fans here in LA aren't too happy with the Rams quarterback situation, but BetOnline doesn't seem to think the team will scoop up Kaepernick. 20-1 odds are given. No odds are listed for the Chargers. And least likely to sign him, the Dallas Cowboys, who, like all their players, and New England Patriots, who were recently burned for big-name signing. Both teams are given 50-1 odds. Get that. Anyway, the Bengals are 7-2, and the Steelers are 4-1. The Ravens 6-1 odds. The Bills 7-1. Houston, Texas 10-1. Forget that. The Bears of Chicago 12-1, and the Arizona Cardinals 15-1. They're happy. His old team in San Francisco 16-1. The Rams 20-1. The Cleveland team Browns 25-1. And the answer, will Colin Kaepernick play in the regular season game this year? No, 1-25, and yes, 10-1. Will he play in the regular season in 2020? No is a 1-10, and yes, 5-1. And those are the odds there. You heard it here. Let's get to some polling here. And let me see. Oh, yeah. Incidentally, the ongoing episode, got a bunch of ongoing episodes going around here. In Chile, they're going to have a referendum on changing the constitution that was put in place by the dictator Pinochet. And that's a positive development there. And in Bolivia, the new right-wing zealot that took over, she immediately appointed a new general there, and she threatens to put Evo Morales in jail if he returns from Mexico. So that's the incident. We'll have a special programming on Evo Morales, his arrival in Mexico, and the materials there on BR on the World. We still have our World Series that we're talking about with a fellow today about the World Series, still in the minds of everyone. So we'll get to Real Clear Politics here, hopefully, and get some interesting things going here. There were a few polls out here, and we'll just, on the weekend, we'll just go over these. From High Point, that's in North Carolina. We don't get much. This is the presidential primary in North Carolina. Biden is up by 15 in North Carolina. He has 33. Warren has 13. Bernie has 18. Buttigieg in singles with 4. Amy Klobuchar has 3. Harris has 5. That's in North Carolina. The morning call. These are just matchups between DJ Trump and Joe Lunchbox Biden. He's leading by 9 there. And Warren is by 5. Bernie is by 5 also. And JMC Analytics. This is the runoff race coming up here. They have Rep on up by 1 over Edwards. And we have dueling approval ratings for Trump. One has old DJ at 48. That's Rasmus. It's always higher there. And disapproval at 51. And Reuters has its approval at 40 and disapproval at 48. That was on a Thursday. Here, let's see what we got. So we have a few here. This is YouGov Economist poll, had Warren up by 3. This is on the nomination. She is at 26. Biden is at 23. Bernie is at 17. Buttigieg at 9. Harris at 5. Klobuchar at 2. Yang at 4. And then the Atlanta Constitution here has Biden up by 8 in Georgia. We went over that on, but we'll just repeat it. Warren is up by 3 over him. This is in the state of Georgia. Bernie Sanders up by 4. Buttigieg by 3 and Harris by 1. That's in the state of Georgia. The Morning Consult, that's Politico, has his approval rating at 40 and disapproval at 57. YouGov has 43. They're a little bit more charitable. And generic ballot here for YouGov, Economist, Democrats up by 9. Politico, Democrats up 8. So let's get to some of these little polls. This is JMC, and we're appreciative of JMC Analytics. This is the Louisiana poll here. Governor, there's 600 people. Complete response to 5 poll questions. The poll was conducted the 12th and 13th. Margin of error with a 95% confidence is 4%. With the breakdown respondents was 29.5 between Europeans and African Americans, and 4 with others. Respondents were 45% Democrats, 35% Republicans, 20% Independents. The geographical background was as follows: 5% from Alexander, 21% from Baton Rouge, and 14% from Lafayette, 8% from Lake Charles, and 5% from Lake Charles, 4% from Monroe, and 35% from the Big Easy, 12% from Charlie Cook's hometown of Shreveport, Louisiana. And here are the results. Do you support or oppose the impeachment? Oh, this is okay. But the Democrats begin against Trump. Supported currently 37%, lost it grew 1 percentage point, and it was 36 before that. Opposed at 54% in the state of Louisiana, and that's the current and hasn't changed. No opinion 9%, and it was 10% previously. If the runoff for governor were held today, which candidate would you support and your party affiliation? Okay, we start out here with Rapone. Current is 45.5%. The previous was 46%. That's a half point there. Edwards is a Democrat, 45% currently, and it was 48% the previous. Undecided, currently 9% and 6% in the previous situation. All right, if only undecided, select from the previous question. Given that you are undecided in the governor's race, which candidate are you leaning towards supporting? Edwards, the current 45.5%, and the previous was 50%. Eddie Rapp, 46% is current, was the previous. And 7% still currently undecided, 4% used to be. Interesting there. And the governor's race, did you vote for one of the four candidates who did not make the runoff? Current 27% yes, and 23% was previous, and no 65 and 66. It was the previous. Are you male or female? The females in the current were 55, they were 55 in the previous, and 45 and 45. Okay, so that has not changed in their poll. So summary, GMC Analytics and Polling Independent conducted this poll on the eve of the runoff. There are two takeaways. The race is tightened. The outcome of this race will be determined by turnout intensity. The basic contours of the race have remained constant throughout the runoff. African voters are solid in Governor Edwards' corner, 87-7 over Rapone. Leaners are, if undecided, leaners included, compared to 88-8 last time around. European voters favor Edwards, 59-37. I guess in the last poll it was 60-37. So 1 point there. Rapone has gained some strength, but does not dominate amongst European independents. He is at 56-34, the last 59-34, excuse me, 36-38 the last time around. Amongst Republicans, remains solid as Rapone here, 79-11, and before it was 79-17. Furthermore, there will leaners include 18-point gender gap down from 21 in the last poll. Women favor Edwards, 52-42. While men favor Rapone by 10 points, 52-42. Given the undecided percentage at 9, whatever is higher than 6, higher than 6 in the last poll, this has been an election where turnout matters a lot more than precision, particularly now that early voting, which in the runoff was more favored Democrats, has concluded. Assuming the overall turnout by demographic groups identical to what it was in the primary, Rapone needs 87% of that support of the one also ran in the primaries. He's getting now 62% and is keeping him from obtaining 50%. On the impeachment inquiry, the Louisiana voters remained against it 54-37, which is similar to 50-36. In conclusion, the governor's race will come down to the wire, and ultimate results will depend upon the partial or racial makeup of the turnout on election day. Very interesting here how they have concluded the whole election. And we won't do the crosstabs here now, but we'll move along here a little bit. This is a High Point. This is a university. I've not done that poll before. High Point University, amongst Democratic candidates, Biden has large support in North Carolina. The most recent High Point University poll found 37% of self-identified candidates, 33% would vote for Joe Lunchbox Biden if they were voting in the primary now, and 18% for Bernie. and 13% for Liz Warren. The HPU poll also found interest in Democratic primary field hasn't changed since September, when 41% of self-identified Democrats in North Carolina said they've given a lot of thought to the candidates who may be running for president in 2020. 63% of self-identified Democrats said they also watched at least some of the debates. We're still in the early presidential campaign. There are not many signs of movement amongst the Democratic frontrunners here in North Carolina. That is from Dr. Martin, director of the poll and chief of High Point Political Science Department. We should expect increased engagement from North Carolina in the election, as some changes in relative support for candidates in the March 2020 primary. Self-identified Democrats, how much, if any, you give them to a candidate who may be running for president? A lot, 41%, some 39%, not much, 13% there. Self-identified Democratic adults, and we already gave what they... Amy Klobuchar has 3% down there. Kamala Harris has 4%. She should be doing much better. Liz Warren 13 and Bernie 18, and Joe Lunchbox Biden is on top. Have you watched any of the debates? 63% did. Of the Democratic debates, 36% did not. And this was live interviews from their calling center, the 1st through 7th of November. Online feels the same. Response samples from all North Carolina counties came from 1,049 adults. And 801 response, as well as mobile cells, 248. You can see what's going on here. I like it when they give these types of things. The survey research center conducted by Don Natter, formerly Research Now. Well, they've changed their names. Anyway, the estimates here, plus or minus 3.6%. Data is weighted towards population estimates for age, gender, race, ethnicity. Education laws based on U.S. Census numbers for North Carolina. So it's interesting when they say how it is done, and they are done within standards for the AAPOR. Transparency Initiative is a charter member of the initiative, the High Point University Center. So the High Point University. So we'll keep that poll in the hopper here as we look at their poll. Look at a lot of different polls, so we'll have to get back to them. And let's see what else we kludge up here. The Muhlenberg Education Media here. This is a different one. Let me just see who they are right quickly here. It's very long if we have issues on it. This is Muhlenberg College Institute of Public Opinion. As for the morning call, they did the morning call. Okay, so we went through that. This is in Pennsylvania. Less than a year away. 57% of registered voters in Pennsylvania do not believe that DJ Trump deserves to be reelected. With matchups with the three candidates here, the challengers, opponents with former Biden, 9% over him, and 5% for Liz Warren and Bernie Sanders, while holding advantage over Trump in head-to-head matchups. Biden and Warren all struggle with favorable ratings amongst Pennsylvania voters. Very important. Pennsylvania voters essentially evenly divided over whether or not DJ Trump should be impeached and removed from office. So this is it. Thank you. Which of the following categories best describe your voting status? 47% were Democrats, 40% were Republicans, 10% were independents, some were other parties. Would you like an impression of a few figures here? Favorable 43% to DJ Trump, 54% not. And favorable to Joe Biden, 43%, 45% nope. Elizabeth Warren, 38% favor her, is down there, and 47% on favor her. Unfavorable, this is in the state of Pennsylvania. Bernie, favorable 41%, unfavorable 50%. Neutral not show 9%. Do you approve of the way in which he's handling his job? 40% approved of it and 56% disapproved. Do you think DJ deserves a re-election? 42% there and 57% do not. Now, if the 2016 election were being held today and the race was between Trump and Biden, which way would you go? 43% there and 52% for Joe Biden. That's if Biden had been the nominee. And if Bernie Sanders would have been the nominee, Trump would have got 45%, Bernie would have got 50%. And if Warren would have nominated, same. What is the first word comes to mind when you think of DJ Trump? Arrogant, pompous, and jerk, 12%. An idiot and moron, 11%. Corrupted criminal, 7%. Effective and accomplished, 7%. Boy, all these words are here. Narcissist, egotistical, 3%. President, 3%. American patriot, 3%. 2% impeachment. Prejudice and bigoted, 2%. Business type, 2%. Incompetent, 2%. Awkward, bad, 2%. Crazy and unfit, 2%. Smart and intelligent, 2%. I don't know where those people came from. Liar and dishonest, 6%. Great, awesome, and good, 7%. Well, his highest rating was pompous, arrogant jerk, 11%. He was a moron. Okay. You may know the House of Representatives has been holding a formal impeachment inquiry on whether or not to impeach him. Do you approve or disapprove the impeachment requirement? 51%, very close here, and 47% disapproved. Based on what you read or heard, do you believe Trump should be impeached or removed from office? Should be impeached, 49%. Should not be impeached, 48%. 3% are not sure. Trump is dividing the country. 49% approve. Trump only cares about himself, 47%. Trump is being treated unfairly, 39%. And Trump can't be trusted, 48% there. And they rotated these around. And we can get into who these people are. Catholics, 28%. Protestant, 30%. Jewish, 4%. Muslims, 1%. Hindus, less than that. Other religions, including agnostics, 26%. Atheists, 8%. Not sure there. And we look at the educational levels of these people. 33% high school types. Some college, 31%. 4-year types, 22%. Graduate types, 14% in this. In 2016, who did you vote for there? 41% voted for DJ Trump in this, and 42% Hillary Clinton, and another candidate 5%. Or did you not vote? 11% there, kind of a high percentage there. Which of the following categories best describe your income? Under 20,000, 11%, 16% 20 to 40,000, and 40,000 to 60,000, 21%. You can see where this is going. 60 to 80,000, 18%, 80 to 100, 10%, and over. This is a very interesting figure. Over 100,000, 2%. Very high. A lot of well-off people in this must have been the Trump voters. You never know. And ages here, 15% of them were 18 to 29, 25% were 30 to 49, and 33% were 50 to 65. Oh boy, this is really a lot of them here. And over 65, over 65, 26%, the largest number in the group, and meaning Pennsylvania is kind of old there. 51% were females, 49% were males in this particular thing. And overall, who approves of whom? Males approved of DJ Trump, 47. 50% disapproved. Females 34% approved, 62% disapproved. Democrats only 7% approved. I don't know where they've been. And 92% disapproved. Republicans 79% approved, 17% disapproved. Independents 33% approved and 55% disapproved. Those with college degrees 28% approved and 67% disapproved. No college degree 47 approved and 50 disapproved. With the Europeans going here was 47 approved and 51% disapproved. They were 79% there. The so-called non-whites, 17% approved, 77% disapproved, and 13% of the people came out of Philadelphia. 4% approved, 96% disapproved. The suburban area, that was 21%, 28% approved, 66% disapproved. Allegheny County, 41% approved and 57% disapproved. Northeast PA, 13% of them. That's where it got a high approval rating, 72% there and 24%. Remainder of the state, it was pretty even, 48 and 49. And if you look at 18 to 29, 76% disapproved, 30 to 49, 63% disapproved. And if you get into 50 to 64, that was where 51% approved. There was 33% of them in the poll, and 46% disapproved. And if you get here, 65 and over, there was 26% of them, 46% approved, and 51% disapproved. So anyway, that is that particular one, and I guess we have. We're running over. We'll save Atlanta. The headline is here in Atlanta Constitution. Trump faces tough re-election fight in Georgia, and we'll save that for tomorrow night. And we'll return on the week that was. Anyway, just basically here, strong matchup here. Joe Biden leading the president, 51 to 43. Solid support from women independent. Other matchups, of course, there. And we'll get those tomorrow night. This will do it for us. On the 15th of November 2019. This is Boston Red and Jerry Pippin broadcast booth. Have a good weekend, everyone. We'll talk to you on the week that was. We'll have Numbers Man here. And incidentally, we have on the Boston Red Network an open source report. Very good report there, talking about security, talking about code of conducts, etc. there. Chauvinism, racism with IT.